Everyone, Christina Simmons with Say Yes to Holiness here, and I'm live. It's a Sunday afternoon, a little bit different time for me to jump on, but it has been that kind of a week. It's been a great week though. And that's probably the biggest thing is that this last week, especially, we celebrated the feast of St. Francis of Assisi. And yesterday we celebrated the feast of Our Lady of the Rosary. And it's just been a great week, especially in our local community, because we welcomed, for the beginning of a 5-year mission, 3 Dominican sisters of Christian doctrine. That is the full name of their order. They will be with us for 5 years on mission. And it is very exciting to be able to have religious sisters here with us. And even though they're Dominicans, the fact is that religious life really has a focus. They have a plan of life that each of us should have a plan of life. And I wanted to kind of go at it from a perspective of St. Francis of Assisi and the fundamental virtues that he asks his followers to live, which I'm familiar with because my husband is a secular Franciscan. So I wanted to really focus upon how it is that we can live out these particular virtues and they'll help us live like saints. So what's the big thing? So kind of just as an overview, St. Francis of Assisi in particular, we associate him with the environment. We associate him with, being outside and one with creation. But the fact is that his number one principle was wonder. He was in awe at God's great love for us that he had the incarnation happen, that he himself came down and took on our nature, that he became man. And so there was always wonder at this great grace about this wonderful expression of God's love, and it was the incarnation. So to be wonder, to be in wonder, to see all of the wondrous things around us, but particularly the incarnation, just that great gift of what it is. And then, of course, most people associate Francis with poverty and living out the gospel in a simple way. And one of the big things is that he lived the gospel so radically. And it was something that most people are kind of like, I can't do that. And many times we do the same too. We look at the lives of saints and we go, I can't do that. But the fact is that if we begin with courage, if we begin simply, then what happens is that God will give us the grace to continue. So what are these virtues? Wonder, simplicity, courage, to be able to live the gospel, even in the face of much persecution and much suffering. And we have to be tough and persevere. Francis was, and so has every other saint throughout history, but they didn't do it all at once. So we need to be cultivating this wonder of God's love for us, the awesome nature of it. But then we begin simply, small little things that we can do simply, and then courageously. Another part that we need to be cultivating in our lives is the virtue of forgiveness. We can't be holding on to things. We cannot do it. The old adage about the fact of, anger or a resentment is about us drinking poison and thinking that it's going to kill the other person that we're upset with. We have to cultivate forgiveness as a virtue. Reconciliation, this is tied with that. We have to cultivate that in our lives, an attitude of forgiveness and desire for reconciliation as much as we can. Many times we want to be reconciled to other people and they want nothing to do with us. And that's not on us. All that's on us is to be ready to reconcile and for us to not be holding anything against anyone else, for us to forgive. That ties into gratitude. If we are living gratefully, if we are living from a place of gratitude, and if we're living in wonder at the awesome nature of God coming down in the incarnation, if we're living from that place, then we're going to have to be living in a place of gratitude, because we realize that we were totally unworthy of such a gift. And when we come to realize our unworthiness, it's not we make ourselves worthless, but rather we understand how precious we are, how loved we are. And this should bring us peace. But gratitude also brings us peace because we see the great love and care that God is doing in our lives. When we live in gratitude, then we don't miss all the ways that God is working in our lives, even in the midst of everything that might be going wrong, even if there's much suffering, even if there's a lot of pain, even if there's a lot of challenges, difficulties, we're still able to see that God is working in the midst of all of that. So when gratitude, when we're being grateful, then we find that peace. And in the midst of peace, you find joy. How can you not be happy? How can you not be filled with joy when you see all of what is around you? All of creation was made for us. It was made for us to point us to Jesus. And that's the big thing. So to be filled with joy, to know how precious we are. And when we are living in this place of gratitude, we feel this peace and we're filled with joy, then we will gladly serve others. Our response is obedience to God's will in our lives, but is being obedient to the call to serve, to love. This is what service is. It's to love. And if we are not being obedient, then we're not going to open ourselves up to becoming love. But that's the whole reason why we put a plan of life together in our lives, and why we do the work of that plan of life, so that we can open ourselves up to how God desires to transform us. And if we trust that work, then we will become his image and likeness in deed and in word. And so it's not just image and likeness on the outside, but it's image and likeness on the inside. And we radiate that love to everyone. And so we do become those wonder-working saints, those, people who are radiating God's love and compassion to others, even in the midst of great sorrow and suffering that might be going on. So these are the virtues that we need to be cultivating in our lives. We need to be cultivating wonder. We need to be cultivating simplicity and poverty and courage and forgiveness and gratitude and joy and obedience and love, and finally, perseverance. We do these things, we will be saints, because God will make it so. And that's the great joy of looking at the lives of the saints, is that they struggled. They fell down all sorts of times, but they persevered. And that's why we have to do that too. So I hope that even though this is a little bit different time, I hope that this has served you. I hope that this helps you be able to continue to be inspired and encouraged as we're journeying on this road to holiness. And look to the saints, look to Mary, look to the saints, look to those who have walked this path before us, and they can show us the way, and they do. And the biggest thing is that if we imitate them with God's grace, we too can be like them and be with God for all eternity in heaven. This is Christina Simmons from Say Yes to Holiness. You have a blessed day. Talk to you soon.